In a small town surrounded by fields of corn and wheat, life moved at a slow, predictable pace. Jack Miller woke up early every morning to tend to his farm. He had strong hands from years of hard work, and his face was marked by the sun and wind. His wife, Emily Carter, spent her days teaching children at the local school. She was kind but firm, loved by her students, and respected by the townsfolk. Their son, Lucas, was 16, full of energy and dreams of adventure far beyond the quiet life they lived. On a warm summer evening, as the sky turned orange and pink, strange lights appeared above the horizon. At first, people thought it was just a meteor shower or maybe even drones flying overhead. But these lights didn't behave like anything anyone had seen before. They moved in patterns that seemed deliberate, almost alive. The townspeople gathered outside their homes, pointing and whispering. Some were curious, while others felt uneasy. The next morning, the lights returned. This time, they weren't just floating in the sky. They were descending. Large, sleek objects landed in nearby fields, crushing crops under their weight. Panic spread quickly through the town. People locked their doors and windows, unsure of what to expect. News reports came in from neighboring towns, all describing the same thing. Mysterious ships had arrived, and no one knew why. Jack joined a meeting at the town hall, where everyone tried to figure out what to do. Sarah Bennett, a nurse who always spoke her mind, suggested they prepare for the worst. "We don't know what they want," she said firmly, "but we can't just sit here waiting to find out." Daniel Ross, a mechanic known for fixing cars and tractors, disagreed. "Maybe they're peaceful," he argued. "What if attacking them makes things worse?" As the days passed, the aliens finally revealed themselves. They stepped out of their ships, towering over humans with slender bodies that shimmered faintly in the sunlight. Their faces were smooth and featureless except for two large, glowing eyes. There was something unsettling about how silent they were. When they communicated, it wasn't with words, but with images that flashed directly into people's minds. These visions showed Earth's resources, water, minerals, plants, and then scenes of cooperation between humans and aliens. Through these mental projections, the aliens made their message clear. They needed Earth's resources to survive. They promised to leave humans alone as long as everyone obeyed their rules. Resistance, they warned, would not be tolerated. At first, many people were too scared to argue. Jack and Emily talked late into the night about what this meant for their family and their town. Lucas, however, couldn't stay quiet. "Why should we listen to them?" he asked angrily. "They just show up and tell us what to do. That's not fair." Sarah shared Lucas's frustration. She started talking to other townsfolk about fighting back. "There are billions of us," she reminded them. "Even if their technology is better, we outnumber them. We can't let them take everything without a fight." Not everyone agreed. Daniel still believed cooperating was safer. "If we resist, they'll destroy us," he insisted. Tensions grew as people argued over what to do. Then one night, a group of teenagers, led by Lucas, decided to act on their own. Armed with homemade explosives, they snuck into a field where one of the alien ships was parked. The explosion rocked the ground, shaking houses miles away. For a moment, it felt like victory. But the aliens' response was swift and terrifying. Within minutes, entire neighborhoods lost power. Water stopped flowing from taps, and phones went dead. It was as if the invaders had flipped a switch, plunging the town into chaos. Fear gripped everyone, and the rebellion faded, for now. Still, deep down, some refused to give up. Jack looked at his son, whose anger burned brighter than ever, and wondered how long they could keep pretending everything was okay. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. The days following the teenagers' attack on the alien ship were filled with fear and uncertainty. The invaders didn't retaliate with violence, but their silent punishment was just as devastating. Without electricity, water, or communication, life in the town became unbearable. People huddled together in candlelit homes, whispering about what might come next. Jack Miller sat at his kitchen table, staring at the empty faucet, as if willing it to work again. Emily tried to stay strong for Lucas, but even she couldn't hide her worry. "We need to do something," she said softly. "This can't go on forever." Sarah Bennett, who had initially supported Lucas's reckless act, now felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. She knew the aliens were sending a message: resist, and they would make life impossible. But giving up wasn't an option either. Sarah began visiting neighbors, quietly rallying those who still believed in fighting back. "If we don't stand up now," she told them, "they'll take everything from us." Daniel Ross, however, had grown more cautious. He had always been a practical man, someone who fixed problems rather than caused them. Now he urged patience. "They haven't killed anyone yet," he argued during one tense meeting. "Maybe we should try talking to them again. Show them we're not all like those kids who attacked them." His words sparked heated debates. Some agreed with him, while others, like Sarah, thought surrendering was a mistake. Meanwhile, Lucas couldn't sit still. The failure of his plan gnawed at him, and he hated feeling powerless. One evening, he snuck out of the house to meet with other restless teens. Together, they brainstormed ways to strike back. "We have to hit them harder this time," Lucas said, his voice trembling with determination. "Something big enough to scare them off for good." Though their ideas were bold, none of them realized how dangerous such plans could be. As tensions rose among humans, strange things began happening around the alien ships. Lights flickered in the fields at night, and eerie hums echoed through the air. Some townsfolk swore they saw shadowy figures moving near the ships. Aliens watching, waiting. It was clear the invaders weren't leaving anytime soon. Then came the breakthrough. A woman named Rachel Monroe, broadcasting from somewhere far away, claimed to have hacked into the alien systems. Her voice crackled over makeshift radios, giving hope to those still resisting. "Their technology isn't perfect," she said. "There are weaknesses we can exploit, but we need to work together. Alone, none of us stands a chance." Rachel's messages inspired Sarah to organize a proper resistance. She gathered volunteers, including Jack, who reluctantly joined after much persuasion from Emily. "You can't protect us by doing nothing," Emily told him. "If there's a way to fight back, you need to be part of it, for Lucas, for all of us." With her encouragement, Jack agreed, using his knowledge of the land to help plan ambushes. Lucas, eager to prove himself, begged to join the resistance. At first, Jack refused, fearing for his son's safety. But when Lucas pointed out that staying idle wouldn't keep him safe either, Jack relented. "Fine," he said gruffly, "but you listen to me every step of the way. No heroics." The group trained in secret, practicing with whatever weapons they could find. They studied the aliens' movements, noting patterns in their patrols. Slowly, a plan began to take shape. Their goal was simple: disrupt the invaders' operations, forcing them to divert resources away from controlling the town. Despite their efforts, doubt lingered in everyone's minds. Could a handful of farmers, teachers, and mechanics really stand against beings with advanced technology? Even Sarah, usually so confident, sometimes lay awake at night wondering if they were doomed to fail. Yet each morning, she reminded herself why they were fighting, not just for survival, but for freedom. One night, as the group prepared for their first mission, Lucas looked up at the stars. The sky, once a source of wonder, now felt ominous. "Do you think they'll leave someday?" he asked his father. Jack sighed, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I don't know," he admitted, "but we'll make sure they remember us if they do." With that, they set off into the darkness, ready to face whatever came next. Whatever happened, one thing was certain: humanity's fight was only beginning. The Resistance's first mission was both a success and a wake-up call. Under the cover of darkness, Sarah Bennett led a small group to sabotage an alien supply depot. They moved quietly through the fields, avoiding patrols of drones that hovered like silent predators. Jack Miller carried a homemade explosive device, his hand steady despite the nerves twisting in his stomach. Lucas stayed close behind, clutching a rifle he barely knew how to use. When they reached the depot, they worked quickly. The aliens stored strange, glowing crates inside a makeshift structure made of metal beams. No one knew what was inside, but Sarah guessed it was important. "Blow it up," she whispered to Jack. He nodded, placing the device near the base of the structure. A few seconds later, a loud explosion shattered the night. The crates erupted in bursts of light, sending waves of energy rippling across the field. The group scattered as alarms blared and drones descended from the sky. Running for their lives, they split into pairs to confuse their pursuers. Jack and Lucas dove into a ditch just as a drone passed overhead, its searchlight sweeping the ground. For a moment, neither of them dared to breathe. When the coast was clear, they rejoined the others at a prearranged meeting point on the edge of town. Though the mission succeeded in destroying several drones and causing chaos, the cost was high. 2 members of the group hadn't made it back. Daniel Ross was among the missing. His calm demeanor and practical advice had been a steadying force for everyone, and his loss hit hard. "He shouldn't have come," Emily said later, tears streaming down her face. "He never wanted this fight." Jack could only hug her tightly, unsure of what to say. News of the attack spread quickly, thanks to Rachel Monroe's radio broadcasts. Resistance cells in other towns heard about the sabotage and were inspired to act. Across the country, pockets of rebellion flared up. Some targeted alien outposts, others focused on disrupting supply lines. For the first time since the invasion, people began to believe that humanity might have a chance. But the aliens adapted faster than anyone expected. Within days, they deployed new defenses, taller barriers, more drones, and even automated turrets that fired beams of searing light. Worse still, they started hunting down rebel leaders. One by one, key figures disappeared. Rachel Monroe went silent after her safe house was raided, leaving behind cryptic messages about finding a weak spot in the invaders' technology. Without her guidance, coordination between resistance groups became harder. Back in Jack's town, morale wavered. Supplies were running low, and paranoia crept in. Some townsfolk began questioning whether continuing the fight was worth the sacrifices. Emily voiced her doubts during a quiet moment with Jack. "What if we're wrong?" she asked. "What if all this fighting only makes things worse?" Jack didn't have an answer. He wanted to reassure her, but deep down, he shared her fears. Lucas, however, refused to give up. Fueled by anger over losing friends and determined to honor Daniel's memory, he pushed harder than ever. "We can't let them win," he insisted during meetings. His passion reignited the fire in others, even as the stakes grew higher. Sarah saw this and decided to channel this energy into something productive. She tasked him with training new recruits, teaching them basic survival skills, and how to handle weapons. As weeks turned into months, the resistance regrouped under Sarah's leadership. Operating from a hidden base deep in the woods, they planned their next moves carefully. Sarah spent hours poring over scraps of information stolen from alien outposts. Slowly, a horrifying truth emerged. The invaders weren't here just for Earth's resources. They intended to terraform the planet, altering its atmosphere and environment until it became uninhabitable for humans. This revelation shocked everyone. Knowing extinction loomed unless they acted, Sarah devised a bold plan. She proposed infiltrating the aliens' central command hub, a heavily guarded facility believed to control their operations on Earth. If successful, they could disable the terraforming process and buy humanity time to reclaim its home. Jack volunteered to lead the mission, despite Emily's protests. "You're all I have left," she pleaded, gripping his arm. But Jack held her close, promising to return. With Lucas by his side, he set off alongside a small team of fighters, each carrying the weight of their species' survival on their shoulders. As they disappeared into the forest, Emily watched them go, praying they would come back alive. The war wasn't over yet, but every step forward felt heavier than the last. The plan to infiltrate the aliens' central command hub was risky, but it was the only hope humanity had left. Jack Miller led a small team, which included Lucas, Sarah Bennett, and 3 other fighters. They moved cautiously through dense forests and abandoned roads, avoiding areas patrolled by alien drones. The journey was long and exhausting, with everyone knowing that failure meant disaster, not just for them, but for all of humanity. As they approached the command hub, the group hid behind a ridge overlooking the facility. It was massive, surrounded by tall walls glowing faintly with energy shields. Drones circled overhead like mechanical birds, while strange machines patrolled the perimeter. "This is going to be harder than we thought," Sarah whispered, her voice tense. She unrolled a crude map sketched from stolen data, pointing out weak points in the defenses. "We'll have to split up to draw their attention," she said. "Otherwise, none of us will make it inside." Jack nodded reluctantly. Splitting up was dangerous, but he trusted Sarah's judgment. He turned to Lucas, gripping his shoulder firmly. "Stay close and follow orders," he said. "No heroics, you hear me?" Lucas nodded, though his eyes betrayed his nervousness. The group divided into 2 teams. Jack and Lucas went one way, while Sarah and the others took another. Their goal was simple: create distractions so the second team could slip past the guards and reach the control center. As Jack's team crept closer to the wall, they triggered a loud explosion using a makeshift bomb. The blast echoed across the area, drawing the attention of nearby drones. Instantly, beams of light shot toward them as the machines locked on. "Run," Jack shouted, pulling Lucas along as they sprinted away from the chaos. Behind them, the drones gave chase, firing relentlessly. The air crackled with energy as bolts of light narrowly missed them. Jack's heart pounded as he dove behind a rock, motioning for Lucas to stay low. For a moment, they caught their breath, listening to the hum of drones circling above. Meanwhile, Sarah's team faced its own challenges. 2 members were injured during their attempt to breach the shield wall, forcing Sarah to make a painful decision. "Go ahead without me," she told the remaining fighter. "I'll hold them off." Her voice was steady, though her face showed the weight of what she was sacrificing. With tears in her eyes, she activated a device that emitted a high-pitched signal, confusing the drones and giving the others a chance to escape. Back with Jack and Lucas, things grew worse. More aliens arrived, this time on foot. These creatures moved silently, but deliberately, scanning the area with their glowing eyes. One spotted Jack and raised a weapon that looked more advanced than anything they'd seen before. Before it could fire, Lucas threw a rock, diverting its attention. The distraction worked, for a moment, but it also drew more enemies toward them. "We're not going to make it," Lucas panted, clutching his rifle tightly. "Yes, we are," Jack replied sharply. "Keep moving." Just then, a series of explosions erupted near the command hub. It was Sarah's team, succeeding in breaching the outer defenses. The commotion caused confusion among the aliens, giving Jack and Lucas an opening to rejoin the others. When they finally reached the control center, only Sarah and 1 fighter remained. Blood trickled down Sarah's arm, but she ignored it, focusing instead on the alien console in front of her. "This is it," she said, typing furiously on a hacked interface. "If I can disable the terraforming process, we might have a chance." But as she worked, the alien leader appeared, a towering figure exuding both menace and sorrow. Through mental images, it warned them to stop or face annihilation. Sarah hesitated for a moment, then pressed forward. "We've come too far to quit now," she muttered under her breath. Whatever happened next, humanity's fate rested in her hands, and those of the brave few who had risked everything to get here. The alien leader stood in the center of the control room, its towering form casting an eerie glow. Its smooth, featureless face seemed to study Sarah and the others with unsettling calmness. Jack tightened his grip on his rifle, though he knew their weapons were useless against such advanced beings. The air felt heavy, charged with tension as the alien projected images into their minds once again. Through these visions, they saw not just Earth's destruction, but the invaders' own ruined world, a barren wasteland scarred by war and environmental collapse. The aliens hadn't come out of malice. They were desperate survivors, fleeing extinction. Their eyes conveyed both sorrow and resolve, as if apologizing while refusing to back down. "They're not monsters," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. "They're just like us." But sympathy didn't change the reality. If the terraforming process continued, humanity would be wiped out. Sarah turned back to the console, her fingers flying over the keys. She had almost cracked the system when the alien leader stepped closer, raising the hand that pulsed with energy. Without warning, it unleashed a blast that sent Sarah sprawling to the ground. The device she'd been working on sparked and sputtered, nearly destroyed. "No!" Lucas shouted, rushing toward her. Jack grabbed him before he could go further. "Stay back," he hissed, his voice sharp with fear. He knew acting recklessly would only get them killed. Sarah struggled to her feet, clutching her side where the alien's attack had struck her. Blood seeped through her shirt, but she ignored the pain, focusing instead on the task at hand. With shaking hands, she reconnected wires and tapped commands into the console. Time was running out. The hum of machinery grew louder as the terraforming process accelerated. Outside, the sky darkened unnaturally, signaling the beginning of Earth's transformation. "You need to leave," Sarah said suddenly, her tone firm despite her injuries. "I can finish this myself." "What are you talking about?" Jack demanded, his voice rising. "We're not leaving you here." "Yes, you are," she replied, meeting his gaze with fierce determination. "Someone has to make sure this works. If I stay, I can buy you time to escape." Her words hit hard, silencing any argument. Jack wanted to protest, but he saw the truth in her eyes. This was goodbye. Lucas clenched his fists, tears streaming down his face. "No, we came here together. We leave together." Sarah forced a weak smile. "You've already done more than anyone could ask. Now it's my turn." Before anyone could stop her, she activated a fail-safe program she'd hidden within the alien system. Lights flashed across the console, and alarms blared throughout the facility. The alien leader turned its attention to her, clearly realizing what she was doing. "Go," Sarah yelled, shoving Jack and Lucas toward the exit. Reluctantly, they obeyed, running as fast as they could. Behind them, the alien leader raised its glowing hand again, aiming directly at Sarah. She didn't flinch. Instead, she held her ground, pressing one final button that triggered a chain reaction deep within the hub. Jack and Lucas barely made it outside before the ground shook violently. A deafening roar filled the air as the command hub erupted in a massive explosion of light and fire. They fell to their knees, shielding their faces from the heat and debris. When the chaos subsided, all that remained was a smoldering crater where the facility once stood. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Jack stared at the ruins, his chest tight with grief. Lucas buried his face in his hands, sobbing uncontrollably. Sarah's sacrifice had saved them, and possibly the entire planet, but the cost was unbearable. As they began their journey back home, Jack carried Sarah's jacket, the only thing left of her. Each step felt heavier than the last, weighed down by loss and guilt. Yet even in the midst of despair, a spark of hope lingered. The sky above slowly returned to its natural blue, a sign that Earth was healing. Though humanity had won this battle, the scars ran deep. Jack thought about Sarah's bravery, her willingness to give everything for a future she would never see. As much as it hurt, he vowed to honor her memory by rebuilding, not just their town, but a world worth fighting for. The journey back to their town was long and somber. Jack and Lucas walked in silence, each step heavy with exhaustion and grief. The weight of Sarah's sacrifice hung over them like a dark cloud. Every time Lucas glanced at the jacket his father carried, fresh tears welled up in his eyes. Why did she have to do it? He asked finally, his voice breaking. Jack stopped walking and placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "She did it because she believed in something bigger than herself," he said softly. "She gave us a chance, a real chance, to fix things." His words were meant to comfort, but even he struggled to find peace in what had happened. When they reached the outskirts of town, they were greeted by survivors who had heard the distant explosion. Emily ran to them, relief washing over her face until she noticed Sarah wasn't with them. Her expression crumbled as Jack shook his head, unable to speak. Instead, he handed her Sarah's jacket, which she clutched tightly, tears streaming down her cheeks. Word spread quickly about what had happened. Though many mourned Sarah's loss, there was also a renewed sense of hope. The sky was clear again, and crops that had begun to wither under the alien terraforming process showed signs of recovery. It was proof that humanity still had a future if they worked together to rebuild it. In the days that followed, Jack took charge of organizing the townsfolk. They salvaged materials from abandoned buildings, repaired damaged homes, and started planting new fields. Lucas threw himself into the work, channeling his pain into action. He helped dig irrigation ditches, repair fences, and gather supplies, determined to honor Sarah's memory by building something strong enough to last. But not everyone shared their optimism. Some people remained bitter, blaming the aliens for everything they'd lost. Others argued that humanity should prepare for another attack, convinced the invaders would return one day. Daniel Ross's widow, Maria, voiced this fear during a meeting. What if they come back angrier? What if next time we can't stop them? Jack listened quietly before responding. "We don't know what tomorrow will bring," he admitted, "but we can't live our lives waiting for the worst to happen. We have to focus on today, on making things better for ourselves and for those who'll come after us." Despite the challenges, progress was slow but steady. Neighboring towns began reaching out, sharing resources and ideas. Rachel Monroe reappeared, broadcasting messages of unity and resilience. Her voice, once a beacon of rebellion, now urged cooperation. "We've proven we can fight when we need to," she said. "Now let's prove we can heal." As weeks turned into months, life in the town began to resemble its former self. Children played in the streets again, laughter filling the air. Farmers tended to their fields, hopeful for a good harvest. Even Emily found solace in teaching once more, using stories of courage and sacrifice to inspire her students. One evening, Jack stood atop a hill overlooking the town. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. For a moment, he allowed himself to feel proud of what they'd accomplished. But pride was fleeting, replaced quickly by the sobering reminder of how much they'd lost. Luke Ayres joined him, holding 2 cups of water. "Here," he said, handing one to his father. "It's clean now. The wells are working again." Jack smiled faintly, taking the sip. "Good job," he said. "You've done well." Lucas looked out at the horizon, his expression thoughtful. "Do you think we'll ever see aliens again?" "I don't know," Jack replied honestly. "But if we do, we'll face them together, just like we always have." For now, that was enough. The scars of the past would never fully fade, but neither would the lessons learned. Humanity had been pushed to the brink, yet somehow they'd endured. And as long as people like Jack, Lucas, and Sarah were remembered, there would always be hope for the future. Months passed, and the town began to thrive again. The fields were green with crops, and the rivers flowed freely, carrying life back into the land. Jack Miller spent his days working on the farm, but his mind often wandered to Sarah and the sacrifices made during those dark times. He carried her memory with him, just as he carried the lessons she had taught them all: courage, unity, and hope. Lucas grew quieter as time went on, though his determination never wavered. He helped rebuild homes, repair roads, and care for the younger children who had lost parents in the fight against the aliens. Sometimes at night, he would climb the same hill where his father often stood and stare up at the stars. "Do you think they're still out there?" he asked one evening when Jack joined him. "Probably," Jack replied after a pause. "But if they ever come back, we'll be ready this time. We know what's worth fighting for." The scars of the invasion remained visible everywhere. Burnt fields, shattered buildings, and empty chairs at dinner tables. But so did the resilience of the people. Neighboring towns banded together, forming alliances stronger than before. They shared knowledge, resources, and plans for defense. Rachel Monroe became a symbol of this new unity, traveling between communities to encourage cooperation and preparedness. One day, while repairing an old radio, Lucas picked up a faint signal. At first, he thought it was static, but then words emerged, a voice speaking in broken English. "To humanity. Message. Peace." His heart raced as he called for his father. Together, they listened intently, trying to make sense of the transmission. "It's from space," Lucas said breathlessly. Could it be them? The aliens? Jack frowned, unsure whether to feel fear or relief. "We need to tell the others," he said finally. "Everyone should hear this." Word spread quickly, and soon the entire town gathered around the radio. Rachel arrived shortly after, bringing equipment to boost the signal. As they adjusted the dials, the message became clearer. It wasn't aggressive or threatening. It was an apology. "We acted out of desperation," the voice explained. "Our world was dying, and we sought refuge without considering your lives. We see now that coexistence is possible. If you are willing, we wish to begin anew." A stunned silence fell over the crowd. Some looked angry, unwilling to forgive the invaders' past actions. Others seemed hopeful, eager to avoid another war. Jack glanced at Emily, whose face mirrored the uncertainty everyone felt. "What do we do?" someone asked eventually. Rachel stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "This isn't a decision any one person can make," she said. "It's something we all have to decide, together." Meetings stretched late into the night as people debated the message. Jack argued for caution, reminding everyone of the cost of trusting too easily. But Lucas, inspired by Sarah's belief in second chances, urged them to consider peace. "They've admitted they were wrong," he said. "Isn't that worth something?" In the end, a majority voted to respond, not with hostility, but with questions. They crafted a reply asking for guarantees: no more terraforming, respect for human sovereignty, and open communication moving forward. Rachel broadcast the message using the repaired transmitter, and days later, they received a response: agreed. Though tensions lingered, the agreement marked the start of fragile diplomacy. Over time, humans and aliens exchanged knowledge and technology, learning from each other. The invaders, once feared enemies, became tentative partners in rebuilding Earth. For Jack, the change was difficult to accept. He couldn't forget the faces of those who had died. But watching Lucas grow into a leader committed to peace gave him hope. Humanity had survived its darkest hour, not through hatred, but through perseverance and forgiveness. As years went by, the story of their struggle became legend, a reminder of how close they had come to losing everything. And though the scars of the past would always remain, they served as proof that even in the face of overwhelming odds, humanity could rise above.